Welcome to the Trio SSS Personal Branding Workshop. Today we're going to look at your resume and cover letter, your experience portfolio, how to make an About Me statement using your why, people-to-people networking, and your social media presence. Module 1, Resume and Cover Letter. We're going to be talking about your bullet points and Big Bertha. So, bullet points. I am also a career services ambassador. And in career services, we often tell our students that the most important thing on your resume is going to be your bullet points. So the goal of your bullet points is to imply the skills you gained on the job by stating what you did and proving why you know the task is important. So the rule of how to do that, you start off with a strong action verb. You're going to tell what you did. You're going to add that how and why statement, which proves that you know the task's importance, and then you're going to quantify it if possible. This is going to be the most important thing that you do on your resume, as bullet points are probably going to be the largest portion of your document. Once you get done working on your bullet points, some advanced actions that you can take are to order your bullets from most to least important, and then you can also add a fourth or fifth bullet if those experiences you feel like are really related to your major or what you're going to do or are very important to what you want the employer to know about you. You can also always come into the career service office, always going to put in a plug. Our hours are 9 to 4, and we can help you with that as well. Big Bertha. Something that we also suggest that students do is make a giant document of everything that you've ever did. This way you can remember your high school experiences, and you don't have to think about what year you did certain activities, what role you played, and what job tasks you had to do. It also makes it easier when you create a resume, since each resume should be tailored to the experience that you're applying to. So you can just write down everything you ever did, and then when you're tailoring your resume, you can just copy and paste those bullet points, which makes it a lot easier to make those documents. You can also put in there your hobbies, interests, and skills. A lot of times employers won't specifically ask for that. However, if you have your skill set already written down, you can look back at that to help you prep for interviews and know what you want to talk about and highlight in your work experience. And then you can also start to connect your interests and hobbies into those passion statements that'll help you write your cover letter. This document goes with you, obviously, as you're going to be writing down everything you've ever done. While you're in college, you're going to be adding in those job experiences, that major experience of what you've done, and then after college, it's mostly going to be training, certifications, any jobs or special projects that you have to work on, things like that. And then versus, it's often found in a resume document that you have your purpose statement or an objective statement or a profile summary or a summary of qualifications. There is a little bit of a difference between these, so that's why it says versus. Your purpose statement is going to be that 1 to 2 sentences of where you're at now and what you want to be doing. So, motivated individual looking for a team environment where I can work with age 5 to 7 kids, helping them gain social skills. Things like that. That would be your purpose statement. Your objective statement is going to be basically what job that you want. We encourage students that if they need to fill up those 1 or 2 lines of space, you can put that statement in there, but most of the time the job that you're applying to is already going to state the job that you're applying to, so having an objective statement isn't particularly useful. The only time that it would be is if it's like a general job application for the entire company. You want to put your objective statement on there so the hiring team knows, yes, I applied for the company and would be happy with any position, but this is a position I would like specifically. Then there's your profile summary. So these are going to be taking those top 2 or 3 experiences overall that you have in your document or in your experiences, and you're going to make a little paragraph, quote unquote, because nothing in your resume should be an actual full sentence, summarizing those experiences. The summary of qualifications is the same thing but in bullet point form. So if you've had a history of jobs where you've had to communicate with a bunch of people, you can say orate 200 plus tours to prospective students over a span of 5 years. You're summarizing across multiple experiences. You want to make sure that it's a little bit different from what specifically you have in your document, but that way you can group together so they can really see that skill set before they finish reading the document. Cover letters. This is an area where a lot of students feel stressed out when they come into the career services office. It's really a simple format once you break it down. So paragraph 1 is going to be the position that you're interested in and where you found it. So you can be like, hi, I am so-and-so. I'm interested in applying for the XYZ position that I found on Indeed. And then you go into your second paragraph. Paragraph 3 is going to be that thank you paragraph, so it can be as simple as we thank you for this opportunity. You can be contacted at from this time to this time. I look forward to hearing from you. It's really short and simple, those 2 paragraphs. Paragraph 2 is going to be the meat of your cover letter. So the 2 paths that you can take with this paragraph is the story and passion route or the practical experience route. So in short, the story passion route is you're going to tell that founding story of what made you want to do what you're applying for. Practical experience is going to be these are the experiences that I've had that have taught me either this skill set or have expanded my knowledge on certain things or have helped me to realize that I want to be in this career path. The hardest thing with cover letters is it's really hard when you're trying to do both pathways at the same time. It's a lot better for you format-wise, focus, and size-wise to take one route or the other, so make sure you're choosing that when you start off your document. Then tips for your cover letter: try not to start off a lot of sentences with I. You want to make sure that your experiences are speaking for you, and in that way you don't have to put the I. So for an example, it would be like if you're saying, I am a student studying marine biology and have learned XYZ. You could start instead with, as a marine biology major, I have experienced XYZ. It flows better. It puts information in there but doesn't dwell too much on it. Also on your cover letter, you want to make sure that you're aligning your statements with the company's goals and tenets. So you want to make sure that you're doing your research whenever you're able to match what you're saying in your cover letter to that about me statement. It just helps the employer see those connections and also see that you care about the experience that you're going into because you've done that research. And this is a resource, WiseDoc, that you can use. You can find out more about that on the Career Services website. Module 2, the Experience Portfolio, talking about job-specific experiences and major-specific documents. So for job-specific experiences, these can be internships, shadowing, volunteering, pre-experience, actual jobs that you've had. How to search for these things. The most important thing that you can have is to make sure that you're being really specific in what you want to look into. That way you can get more broad later on. So that would be knowing what industry you want to go into, what job you really want to have in terms of an internship or a job. If it's an internship, whether it needs to be paid, whether it needs to have academic credit, what experiences, what tasks you want to work on, things like that. Working with what you have, there's always opportunities to get that job-specific experience. Something that people often talk about, employers, is that they want people with soft skills. So that's the communication, the customer service, conflict resolution. You can get that almost anywhere and make it work for what you're trying to do in terms of personal branding, but you just have to make sure that every single experience that you have, you find some way to relate it to what you want to do, and a lot of it will translate over. That's what it goes into shadowing and volunteering. Your advisors probably have better chances of giving you opportunities in those areas. But when it comes to volunteering, that can be done in a club or organization that may or may not be related to your major or the job that you want to go into. And then for pre-experience, that would be like freelancing, practicum, projects you have to do in class, making sure that you're keeping note and keeping track of those things, because that's all part of your personal brand. Anything that you've ever done ever, you can relate it to what you're trying to do and that brand you're trying to put out for yourself. Grad school personal statements and statements of intent. Whether or not grad school is something that you want to go into, a lot of further experiences that you're going to have are going to ask you for a purpose statement or a personal statement. Basically, you just want to make sure that you have one mission statement in mind for your statement of intent or your personal statement, as in, these are 2 or 3 sentences that tell about me, and then these are 2 or 3 experiences that I can expand on that explain these aspects of myself. For statements of intent, it would be, this is what I really want to do in this position, or in this field, in this study opportunity, and then these are some experiences that show that I'm ready for this, or that I have the knowledge and background to get it done. I just need help on the other end to make it happen. Make sure you're aligning it to that content area, so anytime that you can bring in those key tenets again, those about me statements, about the company statements, it always shows that you care about what you're going into. And then oftentimes try to start these types of documents way early in advance. You want to be able to take a step back for reviews and ask people their opinions of you, people who know you very well, people who know you in different settings, to make sure that you're showing the best aspects of yourself throughout. And then major specific documents. CVs and master docs pretty much are sort of like a Big Bertha document, however, you're sort of tailoring it like you would a resume. So your CV is going to be your academic projects as well as your jobs and experiences. Your master docs is going to be where you might include your hobbies or your skills. Not every job is going to ask you for this type of document, and not every major has to deal with these types of documents. However, if you have that Big Bertha document somewhere saved when it comes to having to make one of these on an application when you get further into life and into a field that you want to be in, it's good to have that Big Bertha document because you can just copy and paste everything over once you look up a template of a CV or a template of a master doc. And then portfolios. Portfolios are important for all majors. I have a few listed here as examples, but anything that you've ever done, you can use that to show as your proof of experience or where you learned a lesson, where you endured a hardship, sort of thinking about those like interview questions, any questions that somebody would ask you like, why are you qualified, what makes you qualified? So some examples of portfolios for an English major, that could be essays that you've written, that could be reading journals that you've done. If you're a writing major, those can be your manuscripts. For an art major, those can be your art pieces, maybe a little brief paragraph about the philosophers that you studied or the techniques that you used in a piece or what the piece means to you. For media, that can be any media projects that you've had to do, any presentations, any broadcasting experiences that you've had, computer science, those in-class projects, things like that, education, lesson plans, unit plans, anything like that. Any major can have a portfolio. Make sure that you're documenting those important experiences, because for all of us coming out of college, most of those experiences from our portfolio are going to come from our classes, so make sure that you're keeping note of those important things that you've done in class or on your jobs so that you can talk about them later when they ask for examples of what work you've done. Module 3, the About Me statement, your Why statement, how to have an elevator pitch, how to make it, how to speak with passion and confidence. This video, please go check this out a little bit later. It shows an example, a quick example, 30 seconds, of taking how you would introduce yourself and turning it into something really passionate and confident. So from that video, I got these 3 things, which may seem super simple, but they really are super simple. So your elevator pitch is going to be basically that tell me about yourself statement. So you want to have strong statements, flashy but factual language. So in the example, the man works for aviation, has flown a certain number of hours, has worked there for 9 years, and that's sort of the way he states it. But at the workshop that he's working at, the person who was working with him said, "Oh, so you're a aviation professional with almost a decade of experience and 600 plus flight hours." That type of statement is flashy because it has the numbers in there, it has those keywords of the job industry that the person was in, but it's also very factual. So when you're introducing yourself, you want to make sure that you're showing that you know those key terms, that you put in those qualifiers that sound good. In statement, it's much better to say almost a decade than 9 years of experience. For you, that might be close to 5 years of experience instead of saying, oh, about 3 or so years. So making sure that it's flashy, but it's factual. Tailoring, making sure that you're matching the way that you present yourself to the environment that you're in. If you're meeting somebody as a friend of a friend, maybe you want to come at it from a relational standpoint first. So maybe getting them to talk about themselves more than you want to talk about yourself. In those situations where it's just blind or you're going in for an interview, you want to tailor it for, I'm a confident person, I know what I'm talking about, but I also really want this job. So tailoring it and making sure that the elevator pitch matches the environment that you're in. And then context. So that's sort of a little bit like tailoring, but context is making sure that what you're saying matches the experience that you've had. So you don't want to say like, I'm an expert at XYZ, and they ask you to give you an example and you can't come up with one. Make sure that you have that background to anything that you say in that about me statement so that people, when they ask questions, are able to easily tell that your follow-up, you know what you're talking about. So, how to speak with passion and confidence. First thing is you want to know what your why is. Any elevator pitch, anytime you're talking about your passions, you want to voice the passions that you already have because they make you excited. They help you figure out what exactly you love about what you're doing. So, knowing those key statements that really sound good and sound like you're passionate about the field, and anytime you're passionate about something, it's easy to see that this is something that you want to do. So, speak from your point of passion. Have your start point and end goal in mind when knowing your why. A lot of times people will ask, when is the first time that you realized that you wanted to do XYZ? And they just as often ask, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? That question may seem daunting, but having an answer is a lot better than saying, I guess, or I think, or maybe. Having an answer helps them know that you're not only passionate about the field, but you're also motivated to get somewhere, which is often a trait that employers look for, a trait that networkers look for, recruiters. So having that, knowing your why, knowing where you started, knowing where you want to end up is very important. And then have an impactful statement. So after you've thought about why you're passionate about what you're working on, you've thought about what made you want to start doing it, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, where do you see yourself in 10 years, make an impactful statement. Find a way to say that that's easy to remember for you or that matches the context, but always speaking from that why. And then also passion and confidence in interviews. So this is where these type of conversations most of the time come up. We're also going to talk about networking a little bit later. But for interviews, first thing you want to prepare. So having those documents in mind, having known your major experiences, getting those experiences under your belt, that's most of the preparation that you're ever going to have to do for an interview. You can also always look up questions, general interview questions. You can look up specific interview questions. If you look up the job that you want to apply to, plus interview questions, they'll often come up with a lot of different things that you can look at. Then presentation is everything. So that sort of goes into the confidence aspect of it. You want to make sure that the way that you appear, it matches the company's brand. That's sort of also another thing with personal branding. Being able to stick out when it comes to having that interview, when it comes to networking and talking to people, but then also being able to blend in, which sounds really complex, but it's pretty easy when you know that's the field that you want to go into. Making sure that your documents look right in terms of format, and then asking the right questions. Part of confidence that people often overlook is that when an interviewer asks you if you have questions afterwards, they want you to have a question. So always go into any opportunity, any networking as well, which we're going to talk about later, any networking opportunity, any time with somebody in an industry that you want to impress and know more about, or they're doing exactly what you want to be doing when you grow up, ask them questions. It shows that you're interested, it shows confidence even if you don't feel confident, it shows your passion, it shows your motivation, it shows that you're driven. So asking questions and then asking the right questions. Don't ask a basic question like, what are going to be the day-to-day tasks if y'all have already talked about those day-to-day tasks in the interview. Make sure you're asking the right questions that show that you were listening, that you were paying attention, and that you're passionate about what you want to do. Module 4, people-to-people, networking, branding. So, making connections. Northwest is actually a pretty good place to make connections. This can be talking to people in your classroom. This can be coming to career services events. We always encourage students to come and just practice. That way you can get more comfortable talking about yourself. You can get more comfortable asking people in other fields. My favorite thing to do when I'm at career service events is just walk around and talk to random employers. Sometimes they ask me what my major is, and the conversation starts to get a little dry and stale when they realize that I'm not in the area or the field that they're looking for. But most of the time, people just love to share. There's sort of like an unspoken rule for recruiters or employers that, like, path can always change. So having those conversations, one, is good practice for you because the networkers and recruiters are thinking that, hey, I'm convincing them of coming to my career path. So you're getting practice either way, and then also you're getting real authentic practice because they're going to be interested in telling you things about them. When it comes to talking to people in class, you already have your class, one, in common. You might have your major in common. Inviting somebody to lunch, deciding to stay a little bit after or before class to have a conversation. Start to make those connections, because those are connections that are going to get you places when you're outside of college, are going to be your resource net later. And then how to make a good first impression. It sort of goes back to a little bit like interviewing. Treat every situation like a possible job opportunity, honestly. Not in terms of money-wise, but in terms of making connections. You never know when somebody might be a resource that you need. You never know when somebody might be working in an area that you may need later on. Collect business cards. I know that sounds like a pastime, but having those connections, having those things that you can bring up to later, who knows, somebody might remember you. The best way to start with a good first impression, again, being able to introduce yourself in those 2 or 3 sentences. People like succinctness, and then also being passionate about making those connections. If you have a mindset like, this is going to be a good, positive experience no matter what happens, then you can't go wrong. Means of engagement: phone, email, and text. This more so is to do with etiquette, more so than anything else. When you're talking on the phone, you want to make sure that you are smiling, which sounds weird, but as we've all been through COVID, you can tell when somebody is smiling. On the phone, you can tell when somebody's smiling, even if you can't see their mouth. So being able to smile while you're talking, people can feel that through the phone, which helps have a better conversation. When it comes to email, making sure that you're formatting it right. Making sure that you're able to show your personality through the words that you're saying, because they're not going to be as giving as it would be in person. Same thing with text messages. You want to stay professional, but you also don't want to be sending like a 2-paragraph long text to your boss asking for the day off. So making sure that when you're having those connections, when you're having those formal interactions, that you have the right format for what you're trying to do. And then as the acquaintances, coworkers, supervisors you get more comfortable with, or you figure out the way that they like to communicate, you can sort of get a little bit more lax, but staying in that business mindset, because you want it to be that if anytime they want to introduce you to somebody else in their network and they want to show you, oh, this is our conversation that we're having, you don't want it to be short abbreviations and a bunch of emojis. You want it to be a conversation that they can follow, so the person can be impressed and be like, yes, this is the person I want to contact and network with. And then professional voicemails, giving and getting. When it comes to giving a professional voicemail, state your name, state how to contact you. Do that at the bare minimum. When you leave a voicemail, you can also push the pound button. It helps you, you can either review what you said so you can listen to it before you send it. You can re-record. You can continue recording. So if you feel yourself messing up, you can just press that, pause, start back over. You can mark your message with high importance if you need them to get back to you immediately, if you feel like this is something really important. Making sure that you're leaving a succinct voicemail, because let's be honest, nobody likes listening to a long voicemail. So make sure you put your name in there, what you called for, how to contact you back at the bare minimum. And then getting voicemails. Make sure that you're responding to things promptly. I know it's a lot easier to skip over it or be like, hey, yeah, listen to it and move on. Make sure that you are responding back, because if you think about it, a phone call is more important than a text. A phone call also is more important than an email. If you think about how fast you would respond to anything, if it was something business-wise or networking-wise, you would probably respond to a phone call quicker than you would respond to an email. And text might be the same level, but you probably respond to a phone call quicker than you would a text, because the text message you have to think so much about what you're trying to say. So make sure that you are writing things down when they talk about stuff in the voicemail, so you don't have to repeat things when you call back, things like that. Make sure that you're being professional in that area as well. Letters of recommendation. So when you're asking for a letter of recommendation, which you will probably at least once in your college experience have to do, first things first, you have to fill out a FERPA release, which you can find on the Northwest website. But you should also provide guiding documents to whatever you're trying to ask for a letter of recommendation for. So if you're asking for a program, you want to provide some details about the program, maybe some details about what you would like them to talk about, and some details about yourself. Always something that I recommend when you ask for a letter of recommendation: send them your resume. Send them any documents that you use to apply. If they had you write a purpose statement, if they had you write a cover letter, just so that they know and can line up their statements with what you're saying and help highlight you better. And then also, it's always, always, always a good idea to sit down and have a conversation about either this is why I picked you as my recommender, or this is the part that I feel like I haven't put in, but I feel like you could talk to more of in terms of the experiences that you've had with me. have that conversation. Don't just send an email and say, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation? They can do it, but it won't be a great one. It'll just be a good one. And then other recommenders. Don't be afraid to talk to your peers, to talk to your coworkers, to write you a letter of recommendation. People often think you only can do it from professors. You can do it from anybody. You can do it from a staff member that you really like talking to or that you really had some good experiences with. Making sure that person, however, is a person who can verbally, if it's going to be a phone call that they're going to get, or in writing, talk about your strengths in a professional and yet engaging way is the most important. So if you're going to ask a friend or peer, a staff member to have a letter of recommendation, less so probably for the staff member, it would just be having that same conversation that you would with your professor, but for your peers and your coworkers, ask them, what are you going to say about me? If somebody asked you this question, what would you say? So making sure that they're the best fit. And having those conversations in general can help you out, so that way you don't make people feel bad if you're like, oh, I think I'm going to go with somebody else. You can just have those conversations in general and just be like, how would you describe me in 3 words? They don't know it's for a letter of recommendation. They don't know you're polling around, but you can get a feel of, oh, okay, this person would actually speak to what I would want people to say about me. And then our last module, sorry, this is getting a little long, social media presence, making your media work for you and professional platforms. So, first things first, find resources and networking on your social media. The wisdom of the more experienced is this. On social media, you're often going to find or follow people who are older than you. If you're following people your age, that's also a trend, but find the people who've been in there longer than you. They can have more examples, they can have more experiences, they're probably talking about things on a deeper level than somebody that's your same age or that has just gotten into the industry. This also goes a little bit with networking in person. Talk to those people who have been there for a while. Talk to people, older people in general. They have some great stories that they can tell you about, and you'll probably find that their experiences are sort of the same thing that you're experiencing now, but specifically in the industry that you're going into. Or the brand that you're wanting to make, you can find out how they were successful and find out what you could emulate into what you're doing. Voice your plans and accomplishments. Something that I wish that I did more was tell more people of what I'm doing when I'm doing it. By doing so, people are able to help you make connections quicker. If they know that, hey, you're working on this project or applying for this scholarship or this grant or this opportunity, then if something comes up in that area, they can get back to you and say, hey, I saw that you were interested in XYZ. Here's something else that you can be looking at. This can be done through social media, easily, click of a finger. Same thing with accomplishments. If they know that, hey, this is something this person really excels in, if a employer or somebody is looking through your social media and they can see, oh, they got an award for this, they got an award for this, they did this related to their major, they did this with a project, it speaks louder than anything that you could probably put on your resume because you have to put it in such short details, and so people can see in what you're doing. And then live it. Your reputation matters. If your social media doesn't match what you're trying to do in real life or the way that you want people to see you when they meet you or interact with you on a professional level or in a networking capacity, that's not good. Make sure that what you're putting out on social media matches what brand, what type of person you want to show to the world. So create your message. It sort of goes a little bit to that, back to that about me statement. Once you get out of college, your social media may or may not relate to your major, but your social media probably will be an avenue of networking for you, or an avenue for other people to see if you're somebody they want to network with. Consider making your description something a little bit more towards your message. Consider making your social media message a little bit more towards your why statement. Not all about you, but about you statement. What you want to do with your life, what makes you passionate. And make sure that you're embedding your personality. I'm not saying to take everything out of your social media that's fun, because social media is about being social. But making sure that you're embedding those professional aspects of your personality as much as you're doing your social aspects of your personality, just because that's sort of like a timeline of everything that you've ever done as much as your resume is. And then last things last, professional platforms. LinkedIn, I found a lot of people don't actually use it for jobs, they use it to make connections. A lot of people who come into career services in specific majors will say, like, hey, I was just reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn and they found this opportunity and now I need to get my resume done because they said they need somebody right now. Being a Bearcat, actually, I've seen being in the career services office is really helpful. People really do, like, come to us and say, hey, we have an opportunity and would like to hire specifically Bearcats. So LinkedIn can be a great place for you to connect to people. don't be afraid to send that DM and be like, hey, I'm a junior in X major. I see that you're in this industry that I really want to get into. What can you tell me about it? Something as simple as that. You can get answers from a bunch of different people and a lot more insights into what you want to do before you get out there and figure out, maybe this isn't something that I want to do. And then LinkedIn can also be a resource and support group. So even if you're not trying to make connections, you can see what other people are doing. Me as an education major, I can get on there and see maybe what lesson plans are going on, or maybe where I don't want to teach because of different curriculum things that are going on. So you can shoot ideas to people, make connections. It's very helpful. Handshake is an opportunity that career services used to talk about a lot, but it's still good because it has a lot of different job opportunities on there, and it's a lot more focused. So it's not going to be like Indeed, like Glassdoor, things like that. It's specifically people who are good at networking, putting on there the job opportunities that they have in their area, so you can make connections. They can like direct message you like, hey, there's an opportunity here. I saw on your profile that you're looking for this. It's more of a employment searching centered versus employer-centered site. So feel free to get on there and check out some opportunities if they're related to you. TikTok, ... There's another mentor in our office who really loves using TikTok. She discussed the way that she's able to find those resources, find information about her field, innovations, things that people are working on, and that it's very easy to connect to people because it's already such a social site. So also figure out those social medias that you're already on, how you can leverage them and use them to create your brand, to make those connections, to further yourself in your industry. And then also academic societies. There are always going to be societies for your major where you can discuss different things. So as an English education major, I know there's a bunch of different conferences that I can be going to all the time. There's one on creative writing, there's one on language and linguistics, there's one on teaching, there's one on teaching specifically in Missouri, there's one on teaching specifically across the nation. Do a quick little Google search of your major plus different societies or associations, change the word, use synonyms, things like that. Find those resources, support groups that you can join that are already focused on what work you already want to do. So, this is a wrap up. Here's a QR code to get to the video for this, as well as the tips and strategies workbook. Either way, if you have any questions, please send it to the SSS email. I hope this was a little bit helpful in helping you figure out how to create your personal brand, or at least what aspects you should be thinking of later on when this becomes something that you need to start thinking about. Have a wonderful day.